Hello viewers, welcome to EduTube. In this lesson, we are going to learn ordering of fractions. So we are going to learn how to arrange fractions from the smallest to the biggest, which is in ascending order, and from the biggest to the smallest, which is descending order. Now for this first example, we are arranging this set of fractions in ascending order, that is from the smallest to the biggest. Now if you look at these fractions critically, we would see that they are like fractions. Like fractions are fractions with the same denominator. So as we can see in these fractions, we will see that all of their denominators are the same thing. So that makes them easy to solve with zero calculation. So we are basically just going to arrange these fractions considering the fact that their denominators are the same thing. So our focus will be on the numerator. So we are basically just going to arrange them according to their size from the smallest to the biggest as stated by the instruction in ascending order. Now if you look at the fraction, we will see that the smallest numerator, the fraction with the smallest numerator among them is 1 out of 7. So since we are arranging from the smallest to the biggest, so our first fraction, our smallest fraction will be 1 out of 7. And then after 1 out of 7, we will see that 3 out of 7 is the next smaller fraction. So 3 out of 7. And then after 3 out of 7, the next one is 4 out of 7. So we'll say 4 out of 7, and after 4 out of 7, the biggest among them is 6 out of 7. So successfully, we have arranged this set of fractions in ascending order. So now in the second example, we are still arranging in ascending order. We are arranging 2 out of 7, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 5, and 2 out of 9 in ascending order, which is still from the smallest to the biggest. Now if you look at this fraction, we cannot decide whether it is a like fraction or unlike fraction. This set of fractions, we cannot decide whether they are like fractions or unlike fraction. And reason is because all their numerators are all the same thing, and they go a long way in helping our arrangement because we will need no calculation. Now, how do we figure this out? Does it mean we are going to arrange it like we did in the first example? No. In this case, the smaller the denominator, we are just going to consider the denominators. So the smaller the denominator, the larger the fraction will be because their numerators are the same thing. So meaning that the larger the denominator, the smaller the fraction will be. So what do I mean by that? You could see that 9 is the larger denominator here. So, and that makes the fraction the smallest. While 3 is the smallest denominator here, so that makes the fraction the largest. But we are told to arrange in ascending order from the smallest to the biggest. So arranging from the smallest to the biggest, we will see that 2 over 9 will be the smallest among them. So I'm going to write 2 out of 9 as my smallest fraction. So 2 out of 9. Then after 2 out of 9, the larger one, the fraction with the larger denominator is 7. So I have 2 out of 7. So I'm going to write 2 out of 7. Then after 2 out of 7, I have 2 out of 5. So I'm going to write 2 out of 5. And then the largest among them is 2 out of 3. As we said, when your numerators are all the same thing, that means the larger the denominator, the smaller the fraction will be. So that is that about example number 2. And for example number 3, we are arranging this set of fractions which are unlike fraction, but we are arranging this time around in descending order, that is from the largest to the smallest. So we are arranging from the largest to the smallest. Now if you look at the numerators here, we'll see that the numerators are not the same thing, neither the denominators are the same thing. So these are basically unlike fraction. So how do we solve unlike fraction? How do we arrange unlike fraction? This will require a little calculation. So to solve unlike fraction, to arrange unlike fraction, our focus will be on their denominators. So we have to give them a common denominator. Giving them a common denominator will give us an headway or an head start on how to arrange them in descending order. So to give them a common denominator, we are basically going to find the LCM of 4, 5, 3, and 2. So and then the LCM of 4, 5, 3, and 2 If you work it out at your end, there is 60. So the LCM of 4, 5, 3, and 2 is 60. And then we are going to use each denominator to divide the 60 and then use it to multiply the numerator so that we have a new set of numerator because we now have a common denominator for them. So 4 in 60 is 15. And if I multiply 15 by 3, that will give me what? 45. So I'll put my comma. Then 5 in 60 is 12. Then I'll multiply the 12 by these 2. So I'll say 2 times 12, and that will give me what? 24. Then 3 in 60 is 10. So I will say 2 times 10, and that will give me what? 20. And I will say 2 in 60 is 15. So I will say 2 in 60 is 30. So I will say 1 times 30, and that will give me what? 30. So now that they have common denominator, we have new set of numerators and a common denominator. We are now going to separate them apart and give them the denominator separately. So I'm going to write 45 out of 60 because the 60 is a common denominator, comma, then 24 out of 60, then 20 out of 60, and then 30 out of 60. So now the next thing is to now look, because we now all have the same denominator, so we can now basically arrange them in ascending or descending order. So looking, we are arranging in descending order, that is from the greatest. So the greatest among this numerator is 45, and that is 3 over 4. 45 out of 60 represents what? 3 over 4. Don't forget we are arranging in descending order from the largest to the biggest, from the largest to the smallest. So this is the largest, 45 out of 60, and it represents 3 over 4. So I'm going to write 3 out of 4. Then the next larger fraction is 30 out of 60, which represents half. So I'll write 1 out of 2. And then the next one is 24 out of 60, so which represents 2 out of 5. So I'm going to write 2 out of 5. And then the next one is 20 out of 60, which represents 2 out of 3. So I'm going to write 2 out of 3. So successfully I have arranged these fractions in descending order from the largest to the smallest. So that is that about ordering or arranging of fractions in ascending or descending order. If you are new to this channel, please kindly click on the subscription button below this video to get notified of more academic lessons like this. And if you are a returning subscriber, I will say a big thank you for your love and support always. I will see you in the next lesson.